You just don't get it. You're confused, says President Biden.
We have to speak to them, though. We have to speak to them and explain them. Look, I just think people are at a point, and it's understandable, where there's a whole lot of confusion.
Confused, huh? Inflation is at its highest level in 3 decades. Snarled supply chains mean higher prices and empty shelves. The nation is careening toward another energy crisis. The president's numbers are in the 30s, and more than 70% of Americans believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. Since Election Day, in his rare unscripted moments, Joe Biden has taken to the microphone to say some of the most condescending things I have ever heard from an American president. Like so much that comes out of this White House, it's likely a murky combination of Biden's erratic demeanor and a risky calculation by those contributing to his far-left agenda. In short, dig in, plow forward with a welfare, open borders, race, and climate strategy the majority of Americans didn't vote for and don't want to pay for. Americans know a slap in the face when they feel it. You've heard me say on this program before, the people are smarter. They're smarter than the politicians and the academics and the media believe that they are. When listening to their presidents, they historically feel more than they think. And that's okay, because they rarely expect presidents to make wholesale changes in society. Enough of this transformative remaking America stuff. That's not what people expect presidents to do. They do expect presidents to respect their intelligence, not treat them like children. They expect presidents to stoke the fires of national pride and to bring people together. To that point, Biden's biggest challenge upon coming into the White House was his biggest promise to the country, uniting a divided nation. An October Rasmussen poll found 79% of Republicans, and perhaps more importantly, 60% of independents, said Biden is doing a poor job at uniting the country. The midterms are a long way off, and there's far too much drape measuring going on within the Republican Party. But Biden is losing whatever emotional connection he had with voters by being a combination of arrogant and demeaning to the electorate. That's why Biden's tone is so shocking. Most people may not be able to articulate the complexities of public policy, but through their instincts and their gut reactions and their feelings, they craft opinions often more astutely than pointy-headed politicos like to admit. Doubling down on paying illegal immigrants 8 times the average American's annual salary at a time when folks are watching prices for groceries and energy spike is insulting. Telling people they don't understand supply chains is offensive.
You hear a lot about the supply chains in the news, but frankly, not a lot of people have a clear understanding, whether they have a PhD or they didn't go to school, about how a supply chain works. It says easy to talk about it, but what's the impact on the economy, let alone how to fix it? It's perfectly understandable because supply chains are incredibly complex.
Focusing on renewable energy when people can't afford to heat their homes is tone deaf. When the president's climate czar, John Kerry, remarks that for people like him, private jets are the only way to travel, it's elitist. Americans aren't confused, Mr. President. They're not confused about critical race theory, defunding the police, firing people over vaccine mandates, raising taxes, or perceiving weakness from a president that often appears to be hobbled and detached. They know one way or another, they're going to pay for the trillions in spending too. They're already paying for it. Even black Americans, long marginalized and manipulated by the left's agenda, are rejecting the Joe Biden, Joy Reid, Van Jones, Al Sharpton, and Kamala Harris notion of progress. Just look at the turnout numbers from earlier this month. You know, after his shellacking in the 1994 midterms, Bill Clinton famously grabbed the contract with America with both hands and made it his own, virtually assuring that he would win re-election in 1996. But it's a different Democrat Party now. Biden's tone suggests the power brokers behind the curtain will not likely accept pumping the brakes on the left-wing agenda just yet. The Biden condescension calculation, I call it, may reflect an arrogance of power, but ultimately it'll be as successful as the rest of an agenda Mr. Biden often appears confused about himself.